Picture this. You're driving down a stretch of Texas road on a Friday afternoon in July. The sun sits heavy in the sky. The air thick, slow, unforgiving. You switch lanes without signaling. Maybe you're distracted. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe you moved over to give space to a police cruiser riding close behind you. It's such a small thing, barely worth noticing. But then red and blue lights fill your mirror. And in that moment, everything changes. Her name was Sandra Bland, 28 years old, born in the suburbs of Chicago, educated, driven, outspoken. She had just driven over 1,000 miles to start a new job at Prairie View A&M University, her alma mater, the place where she'd found her voice, her purpose, her pride. To Sandra, this wasn't just a job. It was a homecoming. But 3 days after that traffic stop, Sandra Bland was found dead in a Texas jail cell. How does a lane change without a signal end in death? Before we talk about how Sandra Bland died, we need to talk about how she lived. Sandra was the baby of 5 sisters. Her mother, Geneva Reedville, raised them with discipline, faith, and love. Sandra grew up in Naperville, Illinois, a quiet suburb where she was known for her big personality and even bigger laugh. She played basketball, sang in the choir, made people feel seen. In 2009, she enrolled at Prairie View A&M, a historically black university just outside Houston. And it was there that Sandra Bland found her calling. She became an advocate, a voice for the voiceless. She started a video blog called Sandy Speaks, where she talked about everything from faith to politics to police brutality. In one video, she said this: "If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything." She spoke about knowing your rights, about what to do if you're pulled over by police, about staying calm even when the officer isn't. It's haunting now, knowing what would happen to her. These are not just cases, they're lives, memories, and voices that should never fade. Subscribe today and walk with us through the mysteries left unanswered. After graduating, Sandra moved back to Illinois. She worked in sales, struggled with depression at times. Life wasn't perfect, but she was fighting through it. And then, in July 2015, she got the call. Prairie View wanted her back. A job in student outreach. A chance to mentor young black students the way she'd been mentored. Her mother remembers Sandra being excited. Not anxious, not withdrawn, excited. So she packed up her car and drove south, 1,000 miles, alone, heading toward what she thought was a fresh start. And on July 10th, 2015, just a few miles from campus, that fresh start came to a stop. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. Texas State Trooper Brian Encinia is patrolling University Drive. He's been on the force for just over a year. Young, ambitious, eager to make arrests. He's following Sandra's car when she changes lanes without signaling. She moved over to let him pass, ironically, trying to give him space. But to Encinia, it's a violation. He flips on his lights. Sandra pulls over immediately. She rolls down her window, hands visible, calm. "Encinia, do you know why I pulled you over?" "Sandra, I was getting out of your way. You were speeding up behind me, so I moved over." Their first exchange is brief, almost routine. She hands over her license. He explains the reason for the stop. Sandra tells him she only switched lanes to give him space. He walks back to his cruiser and runs her record. Everything's clean. No warrants. No danger. He could have given her a warning and walked away, but he didn't. Encinia returns. His tone shifts sharper, more authoritative. He asks Sandra to put out her cigarette. She questions why. Her voice is calm. "I'm in my car. I don't have to." That small act of resistance becomes the turning point. "Get out of the car." "No, I said get out, now." Seconds later, "I will light you up." A taser appears in the frame. Sandra steps out. Moments later, she's slammed to the ground. "I can't hear," she yells. "You slammed my head to the ground." The camera doesn't show everything, but what it does show is enough. Sandra Bland was arrested on charges of assaulting a public servant. Her wrists were bruised, her voice trembling. Inside the patrol car, she tells him she has epilepsy. He responds, "Good." A single word. Flat. Detached. She was booked at Waller County Jail. Her bond was set at $5,000. She called friends, family, a bail bondsman desperate to get out. But 3 days later, she never walked out again. Sandra was the youngest of 5 sisters, raised in Naperville, Illinois, by her mother Geneva Reed Veal. Comment, I stand for justice, if you're not siding with the bully. In the years leading up to Sandra's death, multiple inmates had died in Waller County custody. Some from medical neglect, some from suicide. Sandra was booked at 4:45 p.m. Mugshot taken, fingerprints. Then came the intake form. Have you ever attempted suicide? Yes, once. After losing a baby. Have you felt depressed recently? Yes. Are you currently thinking of killing yourself? No. Despite those red flags, despite her history, Sandra was placed in a general population cell. Alone. No special monitoring. No mental health evaluation. Her bond was set at $5,000. She didn't have it. So she called her sister. She called friends. She left voicemails. "Hey, it's me. I'm still at the jail. I don't even know what's happening. Can somebody please help me get out of here?" She sounded frustrated, but not hopeless. She sounded like someone who wanted to get out. Friday passes. Saturday passes. Sunday passes. And on Monday morning, July 13th, 2015, at approximately 9 a.m., a guard walks past Sandra's cell and finds her hanging. The official report said this: Sandra Bland was found unresponsive in her cell at approximately 9 a.m. A plastic trash bag was tied around her neck, attached to a partition in the cell. Cause of death: asphyxiation. Manner of death: suicide. Waller County Sheriff Glenn Smith held a press conference. There was no foul play. This was a suicide. But almost immediately, people had questions. Why was Sandra, with her documented mental health history, placed alone in a cell? Why wasn't she on suicide watch? Where were the guards during the final hours? The jail logs showed something troubling. Guards were supposed to check on inmates every hour. But there were gaps, long gaps. Sometimes 90 minutes passed between checks. Sandra was reportedly checked on at 7 a.m. She was alive. The next documented check, 9 a.m., 2 hours. By then, she was already gone. But here's what haunts people. Sandra had been making calls, trying to get bail, trying to get out. Does that sound like someone planning to die? Her mother, Geneva Reed Veal, said, "My daughter did not kill herself. She had everything to live for. She was about to start her dream job." Within hours, Sandra's story went viral. People demanded answers. They demanded the footage. They demanded the truth. If you can't stand cruel officers like Brian and Cinia, comment. Everyone deserves justice. On July 21st, 8 days after Sandra's death, Texas DPS released the dashcam footage. It was 52 minutes long, and it was damning. People watched it frame by frame. They saw how quickly Cinia escalated, how he went from writing a ticket to pulling a taser in under 3 minutes. They saw Sandra asserting her rights. They saw her being punished for it. But then something strange happened. The video had glitches, strange loops, sections that seemed to skip. People immediately suspected tampering. Was the footage edited? Was something removed? The Texas DPS quickly responded. They claimed it was a technical error during the upload process. A software glitch, nothing more. Independent analysts later confirmed that explanation. The original footage was intact, but by then, trust was shattered. Because once it's broken, it doesn't matter how many explanations you give. People had already seen enough. They'd seen a young officer lose control over a cigarette. They'd seen a woman who knew her rights get slammed to the ground. They'd seen the contempt in his voice when she mentioned her epilepsy. Good. And now that same woman was dead. So people marched. They protested. They said her name. Because Sandra Bland wasn't just a story. She was a symbol of every black woman who'd been dismissed, brutalized, or erased by a system that didn't see them as human. Her name joined others: Rekia Boyd, Tanisha Anderson, Yvette Smith, Ayanna Stanley Jones. Voices that had been silenced, lives that had been taken. And the Say Her Name movement made sure the world didn't forget. The pressure was too much to ignore. If you believe people should be treated fairly, hit subscribe. Trolls won't. The FBI opened an investigation. So did the Texas Rangers. The county launched its own internal review. Investigators found that Encinia violated multiple DPS policies during the stop. His tone was unprofessional. His escalation was unnecessary. His use of force was disproportionate. And then they found something worse. In December 2015, a grand jury indicted Encinia, not for Sandra's death, but for perjury. In his official report, Encinia wrote that he removed Sandra from the vehicle to further conduct a safe traffic investigation. But the video showed something different. He removed her because he was angry, because she questioned him, because she wouldn't put out her cigarette. Prosecutors argued that Encinia lied under oath, that his report was false. The charge carried up to 1 year in jail. But in June 2017, the charge was dropped. In exchange for the dismissal, Encinia agreed to one condition: he would never work in law enforcement again. And just like that, his career was over. But Sandra was still gone. Then came the jail. The Texas Commission on Jail Standards launched their own investigation. And what they found was neglect. Guards didn't check on Sandra as frequently as they claimed. The jail failed to properly assess her mental health, despite red flags on her intake form. No one put her on suicide watch. The facility lacked proper cameras in the cells. There was no audio monitoring, and the guards were overworked and undertrained. But no criminal charges were filed. No one went to jail. Just reforms, promises, policy changes. It wasn't enough. Not for Sandra's family. Not for the people demanding justice. So, they took it to civil court. Tell me the time and country you are watching from. In 2016, Sandra's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Waller County, against the Department of Public Safety, against everyone involved in Sandra's arrest and detention. They weren't just suing for money. They were suing for accountability. Geneva Reed Veal said, "This is not about a settlement. This is about making sure this never happens to another mother's child." The case never went to trial. In September 2016, both sides reached a settlement. $1.9 million. Waller County would pay $1.8 million. The state would pay $100,000. But more importantly, they agreed to reforms. Waller County agreed to install electronic sensors in all jail cells to ensure accurate monitoring, require mental health screenings for all inmates, provide de-escalation training for officers, equip all patrol cars with automatic dashcam activation. It was progress, but it couldn't bring Sandra back. And it didn't answer the one question that still haunted everyone: what really happened in that cell? 4 years after Sandra's death, something new surfaced. A cell phone video, recorded by Sandra herself, hidden for years. In May 2019, the documentary Say Her Name, The Life and Death of Sandra Bland, premiered. And it included footage no one had seen before. Sandra had been recording the entire time. Her phone captured what the dash cam couldn't. And Cynia's face inches from hers. The taser pointed directly at her. Her voice calm but firm. "You're threatening to drag me out of my own car for not putting out a cigarette? That's real." The video lasts only 39 seconds, but it revealed something crucial. Sandra knew her rights. She wasn't combative. She was asserting her dignity. When the video went public, the outrage reignited. People demanded to know why this footage had been hidden, why it took 4 years to surface, what else hadn't been seen. But by then, the case was closed. The settlement was done, and Cynia was gone, and Sandra was still buried in Illinois. In 2017, the Texas legislature passed the Sandra Bland Act. It mandated independent investigations of jail deaths, diversion programs for people with mental illness, de-escalation training for all officers. It was a step forward, but advocacy groups said it didn't go far enough, that the enforcement was weak, that the system still protected itself. At Prairie View, Sandra's memory lives on. A street was renamed in her honor, Sandra Bland Parkway. Scholarships were created in her name. Her story is taught in classrooms. Across the country, her image appears on murals. Her name is chanted at protests. Her voice captured in those video blogs still echoes. She wanted to be heard, and now she is. Sandra Bland's death became part of a larger movement. A movement that said, Black lives matter. Black women's lives matter. And the system must change. Her mother, Geneva, has spent nearly a decade fighting, speaking at rallies, testifying before lawmakers, demanding reform. She says Sandra's death wasn't in vain, but she also says the work isn't finished, because every year, more names are added to the list, more families grieve, more mothers bury their children, more questions go unanswered, and the cycle continues. So we return to the question, what really happened in that cell? The official answer is suicide. The medical examiner ruled it as such. The investigations found no evidence of foul play, but Sandra's family never believed it. Geneva said, "I know my daughter, and I know she didn't kill herself." Maybe she's right. Maybe the jail failed Sandra so completely that something else happened, something covered up, something hidden. Or maybe the truth is even sadder. Now, over to you. What did you think happened to Sandra? Suicide or murder? Maybe after 3 days of isolation, fear, and hopelessness. After being brutalized on a roadside for a minor traffic violation. After being thrown in a cell with no support, no help, no way out. Maybe Sandra Bland gave up. And if that's true, then her death wasn't a suicide. It was a system failure. Because here's what we know for certain. Sandra Bland should never have been arrested. She should never have been in that jail. She should never have been left alone. Every single step from the traffic stop to her death was preventable. Sandra Bland was 28 years old. She was supposed to start her new job on Monday, July 13th. Instead, that was the day she died. Sandra Bland wanted to be heard. And now the whole world is listening. Her story doesn't end with her death. It lives on in every reform passed, every officer trained in de-escalation, every mother who fights for her child, every person who says her name. Sandra Bland, say her name. In memory of Sandra Bland, July 13th, 1987 to July 13th, 2015. And all those whose names we must never forget. Every story left in the shadows deserves a voice. Subscribe now. And stay with us as we bring light to the mysteries too often forgotten. This is Untold Black Mysteries. Thank you for watching.